Ready?
Ready.
Okay, okay, go for it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Paredes, and this is Oscar Chavez. Today, we'll be presenting on the topic of acculturation from Chapter 12. This part of the chapter helped us understand how people acculturate to new cultures and how their identities transform in the process. Thanks for being here, and let's get started. Oscar's slide 2. Acculturation is adaptation to a new culture and acquiring its values, beliefs, and behaviors. Key points. Happens when moving into a new setting for a culture. Involves learning language, norms, and customs. Can be stressful, unconscious, or gradual. Let us define acculturation in interculture communication. Acculturation is the process of adapting to a new culture and acquiring its values, beliefs, and behaviors. That is, it's what occurs when an individual settles temporarily or permanently into a new foreign culture. That could include immigrants, foreign students, or even people staying for a long time. Acculturation does not just mean learning a new language. Acculturation means adapting to lifestyles, norms, and perhaps even the way you behave so that you will blend with the community. An example will be someone who is transferring from Korea to America and might need to adapt to more liberal usage of the language or varying classroom styles. It is an interesting fact that acculturation is not always presumable. It is stressful or confusing, especially when values are in conflict from different cultures. Few individuals are aware that they are experiencing it until they encounter an event like culture shock or homesickness. Acculturation is not even process either. Coping depends to a large extent on the personality, how different the new culture is, and what kind of support they receive. And now, Oscar.
Thank you, Jessica. When people from different cultures start mixing, whether they choose to or are forced to, it's not just a simple meet and greet. It's a process. And how well it goes, well, that depends on a lot on just showing up. It matters why these cultures are colliding. Is it because someone moved to school, got displaced by war? Is it colonization? The reason tells you a lot about who's calling the shots. And in the middle of all that, there are these underlying questions. Do I try to blend in? And do I hold on to who I have always been? That's what psychologist John Barry was getting at. He laid out a few different paths people might take when they're adjusting to a new culture. First, some folks throw themselves fully into the new culture, new language, new food, new ideology, and that's called assimilation. Think of someone who moves to the U.S., stops speaking their native language, and even changes their name to fit in at work or school. Then there's integration. This is when you don't give anything up. You find a way to live in both worlds, honoring your roots and showing up in the new space. Think like this is an example. An example will be like a second generation teen who speaks Spanish with their abuela, but uses English slang with their friends at school. Then there's separation. They stick with their home culture, keep their distance, maybe out of pride, maybe protection. An example of this would be, when you think of someone who lives in a cultural enclave, watches only media from their home country, and avoids interacting with their new culture. And then four, marginalization. That's when someone doesn't feel like they belong anywhere. They're stuck between two worlds and neither one claims them, unfortunately. An example of this would be like a refugee kid who feels too foreign at school, but also too Americanized for their traditional family. And lastly, sometimes people create their own little pocket of culture, something entirely new, and that's called cultural transmutation. Uh, Now, let's talk about the toll that all this can take because all that shifting, stretching, and adapting can wear you down. We call that acculturative stress. It can show up in your body, your energy, your confidence. Imagine trying to translate your whole self into a new language every day. Exhausting, right? Things like food, housing, roles in your family, Even how you greet someone is a huge stress. But here's the thing, not everyone feels the stress the same way. If you got support, if you're confident, if you're already bilingual, for example, those things help. If you're isolated, young, or dealing with trauma, that weighs a lot heavier. So we chose Dances with Wolves to illustrate acculturation because the film does not just show a character stepping into a new culture, it shows the emotional weight, the awkward transitions, and even the consequences of becoming something new. We will see our protagonist John Dunbar's journey in the following three scenes, which offer a chance to see acculturation unfold not just as a concept, but as a lived experience. We will show that acculturation does not live in the vacuum and that the level of acceptance a host culture offers affects the different modes of acculturation uh, it takes on a newcomer. Please be advised that our third scene does show blood in case you want to look away for the time being. Thank you.
I can't. This is too much.
Yeah.
It's good trade. This is a good trade.
Échalo.
Nkacheka. Hewa he hampon hecha. Hewa iukachon huo.
Uchinchi la onji ikipielo. La apeo. Toksha o unicha pictelo. Apeo.
I'll pay you. It's all I do is wait. The whole village was eager to take up a collection on my behalf. The generosity of the people was astonishing.
Échalo.
What conduct?
With all due respect,
Your status as a traitor might improve should you choose to cooperate with the United States Army.
There's nothing for you to do out here.
You willing to cooperate or not? Well, speak up.
Shumani tu tanka obwachimi yelo.
What's that?
Shumani tu tanka obwachimi yelo. Nitaku napish nielo. Wichoye inichi pipish nielo. What con?
Okay, so in the first scene, we see Win in his hair approach him and ask for his jacket. In return, he offers Dunbar a decorated Lakota vest. Sorry. Dunbar responds with the phrase "good trade." This simple verbal exchange, paired with smiles and laughter, represents the beginning of integration. Dunbar retains his U.S. Army identity as he is still in uniform and still speaking English. But he enters the symbolic exchange with a member of a previously hostile community. It's important to note that winning his hair initiates the trade, indicating that the host culture is now receptive. Integration, as defined by the textbook, requires both the willingness of the individual and the openness from the host. In the second scene, reflects a deeper stage of integration. Winning his hair and Otter tell Dunbar he should marry Stance with Fist. This shows how the tribe not only accepts him, but begins to speak on his behalf as one of their own. And one phrase that stands out in the scene is too much medicine. When Dunbar offers his horse or buckskin as a wedding gift, Winning his hair and Otter jokingly tell him it's too much medicine. We can infer that it carries cultural meaning. The phrase too much medicine suggests an excess or an imbalance, possibly reflecting Dunbar's Western values. What he considers a valuable gift might be seen as excessive by the tribe. This highlights that his cultural beliefs don't entirely fit in this new environment, and the tribe is gently encouraging him to adapt. It shows that their desire to help him embrace their customs by changing his understanding of what is meaningful. He's speaking Lakota now, though he's still wearing his U.S. Army uniform, which shows he hasn't lost his identity. He's being bicultural, moving through both spaces respectfully. This, paired with the tribe's willingness to volunteer offerings for John, reflects the tribe's collective endorsement of Dunbar's inclusion. The third and final scene shows how the soldiers do not recognize him and mistake him for a Lakota warrior. To give some context, they knocked him unconscious, ignoring his initial attempt to identify himself as Lieutenant John Dunbar. Once captured, Dunbar renounces U.S. military and insists he's no longer serving them. This is an important shift, right? His transformation is complete. What's going on here? His transformation is complete, not just visually, as he now wears full Lakota attire and speaks for their language. When he speaks Lakota to the soldiers and tells them his newly earned name, he tells them they are not worth talking to. It's a symbolic and verbal rejection of his original culture. The U.S. Army calls him a traitor, which reflects the book, what the book refers to as a culture of stress, when a person's cultural transition brings negative consequences from their culture of origin. This scene represents Dunbar's shift from integration to assimilation. The new culture has embraced him. Dunbar doesn't assimilate into the dominant culture like most people. Instead, he joins a marginalized group. His rejection by the U.S. military highlights the dangers of aligning with the less powerful group. This change isn't just personal for him, it also poses a challenge to the values and authority of his previous community. Thank you, and now back to Jessica.
Thank you, Oscar. So what we learn, acculturation is gradual, emotional, and relational. Dances with Wolves clip shows how immersion builds cultural understanding. Acculturation builds personal identity across cultures. Acculturation doesn't happen from one day to another. This is a process that happens over time, and it is often an intense and emotional one. It's deeply relational. For example, personal relationships, not casual exposure, shape how a person adapts to a new culture. The clip of Dances with Wolves is a very powerful example. It shows that extended immersion and true relationships with members of another culture can give a strong foundation for effective cultural adoption. The clip shows how he builds trust, participates in their lifestyle, and even begins to take on elements of their identity. This shows us how acculturation is not only behavior, but identity, how we identify ourselves and how others define us. It overcomes cultural boundaries and redefines what it means for people to belong, think, and participate. Thank you. Next slide. Discussion questions. Can you give a real life example where integration worked or didn't work? What made it easy or difficult? Have you ever experienced acculturation yourself or observed someone else experiencing it? And final are citations. And thank you so much.
Oh, snap. Uh-oh.